compact but a bijou audience this morning, so I think we should probably give it 2 or 3 more minutes just for people to pop in, and then we should proceed. I suggest a couple of quick introductions, which will quite happily burn through 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm Ad van der Est. I will be nominally hosting, which really means I'll be looking at the chat and making sure that anybody who posts any chat comments, questions for our guests, or posts in the Q&A box. To be fair, I'd rather you post in the chat just because that's more obvious, if that works for you all. Perhaps I can hand over in no particular order to Tracey and David to say hello.
Hello there.
Hi, Tracey. I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Thanks, David. My name is Tracey Rawson. My company is Rawson Downey Recruitment. We are based just outside of Windsor, and it's our 20th year anniversary this year, in about 4 weeks. Over to you, David.
Great, thanks, Tracey. I'm David Weir from Tile Hill. I'm a director and founder of the business. We're a specialist public sector focused interim recruitment business. We also provide executive search. I launched the business about 4 years ago, and since then we've been really pleased to be rising up the IIM rankings to number 14 this year.
And of course, the interesting thing is, although both our guests today have businesses which are nominally referred to as rising providers, you've both been around for a very, very long time.
Yes, indeed.
So it's not the same as saying you're new, because you're absolutely not. I will, if I may, just do a quick introduction to this web series, so that we can just get that done. So thank you very much for coming in. We've got an IIM Summer60 series of webinars coming out every week. So if you're just popping into this one, please check out on the IIM site the upcoming sessions, which will also be running. Over the next hour, about half of it is going to be words of wisdom from Tracey and David, and then we'll open it up using the chat for questions. And half the battle of these things is to ask stuff to pluck out from the massive brains of our audience and participants and guests, useful pearls of wisdom for us all to do good things and get work and earn money. Is always nice.
Absolutely.
The webinar is recorded, at least I believe it is, and this will be on the YouTube channel to everybody who's registered for the event. I'm just going to flip back to the Zoom and make absolutely sure that this is recording. I've got a button that says pause, stop recording. So I'm not going to press that, because that would pause or stop it. So I think all is good. I'd like to hand over to our guests. Who would like to go first to share your perspective of the world, please?
Well, David and I had a little chat earlier, and he's invited me to go first, so thank you, David.
Awesome.
I do have some slides to share, but for some reason I'm unable to share those at present, so I will be able to make those available afterwards if anybody would like to see them. But we've been asked to speak, or I've been asked to speak today as the founder and managing director of Rawson Downey Recruitment. As I've already mentioned, we were established nearly 20 years ago, and we have been placed as a part of the rising interim provider, having gone from 67 to 19 in 5 years. So really delighted with that. In terms of a little bit more about us, I hope you can see me, because I'm looking at my my notes as well. So Forgive me as I flip backwards and forwards because we're unable to do the shared screen, so that's fine. We work in the mid to senior level interim management arena. I've actually worked in interim management since its inception of the early 90s and watched it really be created. Alongside the interim management, we offer corporate and business coaching, and I'm an NLP Master Business Practitioner. And one of the things that I was invited to talk about today was why I felt that we had risen so quickly, and what is it that we offer above, or differently, I should say, to other interim providers. And I think it's the human factor. Obviously, having had many years of working in recruitment and almost 20 of working in my own business, has given me really good experience in terms of understanding the marketplace, understanding the subject matter, in terms of the assignments, how they've changed, working with industry experts, looking at international as well as UK placements. So having a really good broad understanding and fundamental in experience within those businesses, working across everything from small SMEs through to big multinational organisations. The human factor in terms of, I have a real passion for helping people. I have a real passion for what I do. The coaching we do is on a formal basis, but I do an awful lot as well on an informal basis. We're a very small business. I am the main consultant within the business, and so it's very, very important to me that I actually share my values with people. Appreciate everybody's values are different, but I was brought up, to be honest with people, I was brought up to help people if I can, and actually perhaps give them some help and guidance if we're not the people to help them, that there is a different route that they can take. I also spend a lot of time talking to people about their own personal journey, and I do that on an informal basis as well as a formal basis, because, as I say, that's my passion. The other things that make us different, sustainable and enduring relationships. If you look on our LinkedIn website, we've got a lot of recommendations from people that I've worked with over many, many years, both having client hats on or candidate hats on. I don't differentiate people of people, and that is also something that is very important to me. To be able to provide insights and guidance and support based on that market knowledge, both from a client perspective and a candidate perspective, I think is very important. For me, one of the enduring questions that people always come up with is, you know, what's happening in the marketplace? When can I speak to you again? What's going on? How can I contact you? Is it going to annoy you if I keep contacting you? And the answer to that question is, I absolutely understand that when you are looking for a new opportunity, it can be a very lonely place. And so by reaching out, even if it's just an email, hi, what's happening? What's happening in the market? What are your views on X, Y, and Z? Because I have a good understanding and have good experience of what is happening in the marketplace, I'm able to give people that help and advice at a time when they're thinking, I haven't heard from anybody, people aren't reaching out to me. So I'm very mindful of providing that sort of help and guidance where I can as well. We tailor our business to suit both our clients and our interims that we work with. What do I mean by that? We look at the marketplace, we look at people's skills, we don't pigeonhole people. We work cross-discipline, which gives us an understanding of a holistic view of the marketplace and of the actual client operations and what's happening, what's going on. So, for example, at the moment, people are asking, you know, what industry sectors are moving. And it's not surprising to know that, obviously, the retail, not all of the retail, particularly obviously the high street fashion and so forth, that will happen because they will need to restructure if they haven't gone into administration, if they've been able to change where they're going and what they're doing, and to be able to morph into more of a digitally based business, then clearly there are going to be lots of opportunities to change. Supply chain, logistics, and also looking at the high street, the big supermarket chains, the Tesco's, the Sainsbury's, and also all of the companies that help them with those change aspects. So looking at people like Ocado with their AI and their robotics, fulfillment centres that they create and then facilitate on behalf of the client. There's lots and lots of areas of change, and it's helping people to identify where those areas of change are. Because not only am I building relationships now, I'm also building them for the future. So if somebody has, for example, a really good contact in Ocado, I can perhaps point them in the direction. If they go there and they work there directly, because of that connection, hopefully then they will remember us next time round, because I may not have the right connections for that person at that moment in time. So it's all about building those relationships and investing time about people. And as I've said right at the outset, what makes us different than perhaps other interim providers is the fact that it's that human approach. Also, because we are cross-industry in terms of client base and have diverse industry sectors and markets that we work to, we've developed a good breadth of knowledge and to be able to cross-fertilise good practice, so that somebody might say we need somebody that's got a specific industry experience. Well, actually, what do you need to do? It's an understanding what the business model is currently, what they're looking for it to be, what the strategy is, how they want that underpinned, and then being able to question intelligently, actually, do you need somebody with that experience? How about if you've had somebody that has got those skills, but actually brought a different view, using different change management methodologies, whatever it might be. And whatever we do and whatever advice we give, I'm always mindful that it's our reputation, and a lot of our business, a lot of our relationships are built on our reputation and recommendation. So it's being able to demonstrate that level of trust, of being able to say to somebody, look, okay, you might have worked in this industry, however, your skills are able to cross over into different industry sectors. Who do you know within those industries that are moving forward and are actually going through significant change at the moment that you can then reach out to? So not only do we provide assignment opportunities, we also provide that guidance, whether it be on a more formal coaching basis or whether it be on an informal chat or an email exchange, to be able to point people in the right direction. And I do truly believe that that is what makes us different. Our mission statement is a commitment to providing people-centric, effective, efficient and a transparent service, adding true value. And a lot of people talk about value add, but it's through our passion, tenacity, market knowledge and expertise, and always treating people as we wish to be treated ourselves. I think that probably says everything that I believe makes us different, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavour of how we work within the industry and why specifically, as the market has changed so considerably over the last 5 years, why our positioning has changed quite so dramatically within the IIM. So I do thank you for allowing me to join and present this morning, this afternoon as it is now, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavour of Rawson Downey recruitment.
Awesome, thank you very much, Tracey. And of course, you've been in the survey, I think, for 11 years. I remember you being in there pretty much at the beginning. So
yes,
good.
Yes,
I would like to just make a quick observation before letting David loose. some questions are starting to pop into the chat, which are aimed at Tracey, but I'd like to hold those back for a moment and actually try and put the generic questions and any others that are submitted in the chat to both of you after David has done his initial piece.
More than happy to do.
Okay.
That's good.
Super. Thank you, Tracey. David, over to you.
Thank you, and Tracey, that was great. Thanks a lot. I think I'm definitely going to be touching on and covering some of the same themes in what I say, but adding to that a little bit as well. So a little bit about me. As you mentioned, I haven't just been in interim management recruitment for 4 years since I launched Tile Hill. It's been more like 15 years, and previously worked for a company called Penna, and I ran the public sector interim business. I was a director there. I think the first thing I just wanted to do was thank the IIM. I think the survey is a really important piece of research. Obviously, not just the provider element to it, but the survey overall. It's something that not just within this business, but previously in previous businesses, I've always looked to as a good bellwether for our own performance and the service that we're providing to the interim community. So thank you for the work that you put into that. And when we look at that, it's not just something that we say, oh, that's nice to perform well in it. It really does mean something to us, because it's direct feedback from the interim community. We were delighted this year to move up to 14th, and also for Anthony Lewis to be voted as the top provider consultant, who's one of our my fellow business partner and director, and that's really deserved. For him. Yeah, congratulations to Tracey as well on your performance. I think you're talking a bit about why we've risen through the rankings and why so quickly. I think the first thing I wanted to say is that recruitment is it's a really hard business to please everyone in. I think if the measure of success in your eyes and in interim managers' eyes is us getting you securing you an assignment, the truth is we'll be pleasing a relatively small number of you. We might place 100 people in a year, but we've got a network of over 1,500 interim managers, and that's growing. And that's the people who are registered with us. There's more that we're connected to in our wider network. So I suppose the first place to start is our understanding, our perception of kind of what the interim management community is looking for from us. And I suppose, top of the list, obviously, is finding you great assignments. That's what we want to do. That's what everyone wants from us. But I think there's a lot more to it as well. So, one of the things that we will try to offer as well are insight on the market, on the sectors that we operate in, on bigger issues that are affecting interim management. Guidance and advice, on your CV, on your proposition, how to market yourself, how we want you to connect to us and work with us, on your day rate. And also, we want to be connectors. It's not just about introducing people for a fee. Actually, quite often we're connecting people that have got kind of complementary skills, experience, or are involved in the same things, and we do that often, not for a fee. So that's one of the things that we can do and give back. I think people look to us for comment and opinion as well on what's happening, and that's something that we try to promote. And also there's an element of friendship, support, and really reassurance about how to approach the market and an interim career. So one of the things I'd be really interested to hear today, if we can, maybe through the questions in the chat, is am I right? Is that what the interim community are looking for from us? Or and is there more to it as well? So I suppose one of the things that we are conscious of is that, given that we can't secure everyone an assignment, we do still aim to provide something that's of use to everyone in the interim community that's going to really help you advance your interim career. So point one is recognizing that there's a role that we can play in helping you to have a very successful interim career that is beyond getting you that assignment, really. I think keeping that front of mind is really important to us. The second point I wanted to talk about was openness and accessibility. I think one of the things I recognised working for bigger businesses previously is that you know, one of the frustrations of interim managers often is that they can't get hold of a consultant that they want to, they can't connect with the business that they want to. You know, and I wanted that to be different for our business, and it is different. You know, anyone that wants to can go onto our website, can register with us, but also at that point is invited to immediately set up a call. You know, we've got a kind of technology interface that allows that to happen. So every single person is invited to meet with us, not just that, to speak with us, not just that. You know, you can log onto our site and or immediately book time into our diaries. So we wanted that openness and accessibility to be a part of the way we work. Now the fear with that is that you're going to be completely overrun and you do nothing apart from speak to people about the interim careers and never get to speak to clients. I think the reality is it's not like that. You know, most people look at what you do, they look at the specialism that you've got, the niche area you work in, and they make a decision about whether it's the right thing to have a conversation or not. I suppose the flip side of that openness is that we need to be very frank and honest with people as well about whether we can genuinely support you. You know, the last thing we want is people in our network, you know, sat thinking, why haven't Tyler Hill called me? Why hasn't David called me about an interim assignment? When actually the reality is that it's quite unlikely that we would, because your experience or your skill set or your sector focus is not one that we can support. So I suppose, you know, it's openness, but also with an honesty that we can't help everyone. And that message is not easy, but it's really important that we that we give it. And I think the final point, and there's only 3 points that I wanted to make really, is about, and this very much chimes with what Tracey was saying about having a very clear vision and about having strong values that underpin the way that we work and that really mean to us. Mean something to us. At Tyler Hill, you know, our values are ownership, passion, integrity, and ambition. And these aren't just words to us, you know, these are things that everyone in the business could tell you about, and that really means something. So, you know, it's about owning the challenge, it's about having a real passion to make things happen, the integrity to get it right and do things in the right way, and an ambition to make our customers more successful and to help our interim connections to have successful careers. You know, so ownership is about, you know, taking our customers' priorities and taking your priorities as our own. It's about being totally committed to supporting our clients' businesses, your careers. You know, a passion is about having a positive attitude and you know, and that being the basis for positive results. It's about having, you know, a genuine interest in people in their stories, and that's something that runs through our business. Integrity is about, you know, things need to be win-win. We're in this for the long term. We want arrangements that work for everyone, and making sure that when we're doing deals or agreeing, you know, agreeing how we're going to work together, that it's fair and that everyone benefits. And then ambition is about us, yeah, like I said earlier, wanting to have a really worthwhile impact on our clients' businesses and careers. So they're the kind of values that are really important to us and underpin the way that we work at Tyler Hill. So yeah, we're hugely passionate about the role that interim managers play in helping organisations to change and improve. And we've got a great deal of respect as well for interim managers and the kind of the leap of faith and the risk that you've all taken in stepping out of a comfortable, secure, permanent career, you know, to do this and to become an interim manager. So I think that's really all that I wanted to say, but they're the kind of things that you might find that are different about us to others.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you both for those introductions. May I invite the fine group of participants we have, attendees we have, to start sticking some questions in the chat, because there's a real opportunity here. You have two wonderful, experienced brains from the provider community here let the opportunity to ask them something go by. I'm going to start asking some questions that have accumulated. The first one is, let's make it nice and easy to start with. This was from Mark. And I'm going to ask Tracey and David for a couple of quick overviews of, so for your business, what type of sector and functional interims should get in touch with you?
Tracey,
So function and sector.
Sorry, David, did you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. Yeah. So our business is very much a public sector focused interim provider. We do work with a number of private sector clients, some consultancies, but it tends to be where they've got big public sector contracts and require people with that type of experience and background. Functional experience is quite broad, actually. So within that sector focus, you know, local governments, working with local authorities is a big area for us. It's about 80 to 90% of our business. So really any interim manager with a strong public sector background, but particularly those with experience of working with local authorities. Functional area is very broad. We, you know, support anything from, you know, bringing in finance directors to people to lead regeneration or set up new development companies, or, you know, there's a whole range of functional disciplines.
Cool. Tracey, thank you, David.
We are cross-sector, we are cross-discipline. What does that mean? Do we deal with everybody? The sectors we're not strong in is probably the easiest way for me to put it. Financial services, they are a very focused sector in their own right. And the oil and gas industries are not areas that we particularly focus on. It depends on what the client needs are. Typically, there are two ways in which we secure assignments. One is through people we worked with before, not to state the obvious, but that not only does that mean clients as in corporations, but also individuals, because obviously individuals move around as well. And so we can be introduced to a new corporate client or a new SME, depending on where one of our contacts has gone. And of course, the second way is by looking proactively at new industries. So as I've already said, you know, Ocado is a company that is very much on our radar. Sainsbury's is another company that's particularly on our radar because Blue Yonder has secured the contract to deliver what used to be JDE into that business. I'm not telling anybody anything that isn't already out there in the mainstream, and I'm using my connections to find the right people to talk to hopefully then be able to engage with them. I think I've already mentioned the sectors that are currently recruiting, and everything in between. Cross-discipline, everything, not quite so much on the sales and marketing side, but definitely on the C-suite. So we're looking at strategy, we're looking at change management, we're looking at the delivery of that change, we're looking at program project management, and we have actually, with clients that have known us really well, not just placed at senior interim level, but also at the mid-level as well. So when they've needed project managers as well as program managers and specialists within their fields, whether it be IT, whether it be change, whatever it may be, having the knowledge that we have and having the network that we have, we're able to put a number of people into particular assignment. Hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you very much, Tracey. If I may, I'll go back to David to ask the next question, and then Tracey also to get a view on it as well. In the current market, how much of a stretch do you see clients are prepared to see in terms of their sector expertise. I mean, it is a point Tracey originally raised, that clients can sometimes be a little bit blinkered in terms of what sector expertise they want from an interim. And how do you see that sitting at the moment? David, do you want to go first? Oh, I think you might be on
myself. Yeah, I think in a tougher economy, in a kind of tougher market, sometimes you see the brief narrowing and clients' willingness to, I suppose, look at people with broader skill sets or different backgrounds. They can be less willing to do that because there's a greater greater number of people available that fit a narrower brief. I think we are probably seeing that at the moment, actually, and I think there's a role for us to play, to really challenge how our customers are thinking about things, to make sure that they get the right person, the best person for the role. We're not just order takers. We do consult with our clients. We do value working with clients that we've got strong relationships with, where we understand their business, where we can be proactive in recommending people to them, not just waiting for an assignment or an email to crop up saying, can you recommend someone to us. So yeah, I think there's a strong role for us to play in making sure that we make our clients aware of what the whole range of options are for any potential assignments. I think you're on mute now.
Dear, dear, dear. Thank you, David. Let's go to Tracey with that one. How are you seeing the stretch?
I think that there are a couple of answers to this, and you won't be surprised at me saying that. Of course, once there is a broader selection of people to choose from, shall we say, so it's much more of a client buyer's market, then they become much more narrow. Absolutely, as David was saying, they become more focused on, right, we want one of those. I think it depends on the relationship the interim provider has got with the client as to how flexible they can encourage the client to be, and to really fully understand what it is that client needs to do and why they feel they need that sector experience specifically. As David was saying, it's challenging them, but challenging them in a way, absolutely, as he was saying, that you can actually understand the whole of what's going on within the business and why specifically they would need that. 9 times out of 10, where you've got a really good, strong relationship with clients, they can see the value of what you're adding. Second answer is, if you don't know a client particularly well, and they're absolutely adamant that that's what they want and they're not going to deviate, that's pretty tough. That's a pretty tough ask, particularly if they've not shared everything with you in terms of what challenges lie ahead. So in terms of from an interim provider client perspective, it's very much down to the relationship that you've got with that individual within the organisation, and also any influence that you have in a broader sense within that organisation too. Because if you've managed to place somebody that's in a different perhaps area of the business, but they didn't need the industry experience, you can then often refer to them, okay, have a chat with so-and-so because we have done this before. And you prove the concept that actually you don't need somebody with a sector experience. But in a market where it's a buyer's market, clients are very much more focused on, we want one of these, please. So it's a case of us teasing out from them why specifically, how specifically, what specifically. When you are an interim and you are targeting your own corporate clients that you know that you've worked with before, actually, it doesn't matter what industry you've worked with, because if they know you, they know your experience, and you've reached out to them in the knowledge that maybe the client that they're working with, the company they're working with, is going through a massive change. If it's a case that they've gone through a merger or a divestment, whatever that may be. It's more to do with your relationship with that individual, and actually the sector goes out of the window because they know how good you are, and they'd rather have somebody with the skill set of the person that they know and trust go with perhaps an industry expert, unless of course there is an element, say financial services, where they need somebody with specific experience within the security side, or you know, they need to have a particular certification to be able to deliver what is needed to be delivered. So I guess the answer is all or many, but the more focused you are on getting your own assignment, the less important it is on sector experience. It's more to do with finding out what businesses are recruiting and who you know that can put you in touch with who you need to speak to within the business and the recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. What I'd like to do is hang on to Tracey, and I'll throw you another question, and perhaps David, if you could pick up after Tracey's had a go. And this is about the interim managers who reach out to your business for help. So what are the interim managers doing who really make you happy about their approach, who you really appreciate the success of their pitch to you? And which interim managers, what are they doing if they really annoy you and really put you off? So what are the good and what are the bad of the interims who pitch to you?
Okay, in terms of, I'll take it in reverse. What annoys me, really honestly, there isn't anything that really annoys me, because as I've already said, when you're in a situation where you've perhaps not got a lot of contact with the rest of the world, it's a case of how can they best interact with us. If I've gone back to somebody and said that I'll contact you for full discussion once I've got an opportunity, I really appreciate the fact that they listen to that. So perhaps that's one area where they'll keep pushing for a telephone call or a meeting. If they want advice, that's a different kettle of fish. So then they can perhaps email me back or send a message back and say, look, I'd like some advice on this, or I'm interested in the coaching side, can we have a discussion about that as well? So again, of course, there are always opportunities. I don't just want to go back and say, look, I'll have a discussion, I've got something. In terms of how often people want to keep in touch, it's always useful to get an email every couple of weeks just to say, this is where I am, anything doing, because again, I understand that it's important to get that interaction.
It's light touch. It's a light touch contact.
Absolutely, and I will always come back to people, always, without fail. And if anybody ever says that I haven't got back to them, it will have been a complete oversight on my part, because as I say, I like to treat people the way I want to be treated. And I agree with David that you can get overwhelmed if you say to people, oh, ring me, talk to me. We can't do that. There needs to be a balance. I have to say, and maybe I've just been really, really fortunate, but the interim managers that I work with, and having been in the industry for 100 years, no, you didn't hear that because I didn't need to. Well, I've worked in recruitment for a long time, and as I've said, seen the interim management market evolve. It's that fine balance, as you said, Ed. It's getting that fine balance.
Cool, thank you very much, Tracey. If I may turn to David. So interim managers, what do you like and what's annoying?
I think what we really appreciate is clarity about the parameters that you're prepared to work to, about what your strengths are, about your your pitch and your your proposition. That's really, really helpful for us. I think the flip side of that is the person that says I can do anything. I've done that once before, so I'm perfect for this opportunity that requires a when our customers tell us we really need a specialist, or we need someone who knows this inside out. So I think that they're two things. I think the other aspect is we I can see this question on here about day rates. We prefer some flexibility rather than rigidity. It really helps us to, you know, to work and to make things happen. I think it's much more difficult if you're saying I only work in Birmingham, I only work at £1,000 a day, and I only, you know, I think there needs to be an understanding that if you know the greater rigidity there is around the kind of parameters and the terms that you're prepared to work to, that affects how much we're able to, you know, to help and support people with the next assignment. And most people do understand that. So yeah, I think, you know, clarity about your proposition and the parameters you're prepared to work to, and a bit of flexibility in that as well.
Because I guess it is tempting for an interim to say, I can do anything, I can work for anybody, I can do whatever you want. And that element of desperation starts to creep in a tough market. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't doubt that many people can as well. And I've a lot to offer that's beyond the kind of core proposition. But I think certainly in terms of the interim assignments that we handle and the way the market's gone over the years, I think it favours these days people with a very clear proposition and
clarity,
a niche kind of, I don't say niche, but a strong skill set in one area. And whilst we're prepared to think outside the box and think broader than that, I think for your own careers and success in interim management, I think it's important to work out what those key strengths are and kind of stick to them and promote those.
So in tough times, sell your box.
Not outside the box.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, David. Tracey, do you have any further thoughts on this point about day rate? Do you see it softening? Do you see desperation? Do you see clients being a bit quiet?
I think all of the above, to be honest with you. And I think, as David was saying, it's about flexibility. I think that if you are working with an interim provider, there has to be trust, because what I won't ever do is to undersell somebody. So if I know and I understand the client's budget, I will put that across to somebody, and then it's entirely up to them as to whether they want to be included in that particular introduction. I don't know how David works, but when I work with a client, 2 or 3 people, absolutely maximum, that I will forward to a client for a particular role. Because if I don't, what's the point in them paying me? Because I need to be able to understand the brief and working partnership with them. With regards to the rate, I agree with David. There are people that will say, that's the rate, I'm not going below it. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. The difficulty in somebody saying, look, I normally work at £850, I work at 500, is you're going to get the wrong type of role. And then you're going to be unhappy, the client's going to be unhappy. There's absolutely no point in doing that. What you're better off doing is focusing more of your time on research, finding out, as you said, Ad, target. That's what I do, that's my box. That's what I do best, and I'm jolly good at what I do. So what clients need that experience now, and why specifically? You put your RSS feeds on Financial Times, on whatever Grocery Weekly, if it's a retail, IT, whatever it is, if it's a technology, CIO publication, so that you know what's happening in the area that is perhaps your discipline, or if there's a broader, obviously you've got the FT. Why would a company need to hire you now? And there is enough information on Google, if it's not on Google, it doesn't exist, and or on LinkedIn, to be able to understand what's going on in an organisation. Then to find somebody who knows the person that you need to speak to and target them specifically. You are far better off doing that than going, I work for 500 quid and I'll do anything.
So it's focus.
100%.
Thank you. I've got a cute question from Nigel. I don't know quite how this is fishing, but let's see what you think. I'll come to David as well in a moment. What would be the top 3 skills, competencies, or disciplines that you see are in most demand at the moment by clients that are difficult to fill? What are the tough jobs you find to fill at the moment?
Would you like me to go first?
Yeah, please.
For us in the sectors that we work in, and particularly if I look at local governments, you know, the challenges in children's services are huge in delivering, you know, really effective children's services that you know, that safeguard vulnerable children and provide them with you know, great opportunities in life. So I think, yeah, I mean, senior children's roles are always really challenging to appoint to. I think a big area for us as well is like kind of place-based type roles. So, you know, regeneration, development, property. We're seeing a bigger need there at the moment. Particularly property, actually, is, you know, lots of areas of the public sector and lots of local authorities are really kind of you know, grasping the nettle and starting to deal with some of those really difficult issues about you know, rationalising their estate, transforming their estate to deliver capital receipts or to you know, create value from it in a much more financially pressured environment that we're in. And I think finance skills is another big area. I think one of the challenges about public sector finance is that, you know, they tend to favour people with, you know, who've developed through a public sector route. So it's kind of a vicious circle in that respect. So senior finance roles can be really challenging as well. So I think those three areas: children's services, you know, property, regeneration, place, and senior finance.
Are you seeing any more downsizing work, just as an adjunct question?
Downsizing isn't necessarily the word for us and our clients as much, but I think, I mean, that's happened, you know, massively and consistently in the public sector over the last eight years or so. What we are seeing, particularly in local government, is a new round of like local government reorganisation and the creation of unitary councils. So, you know, what one council for one area and no district councils, so different no tiers of local authorities. Obviously, that means you know, coming together, a reduction, economies of scale. So it's that type of activity that's kind of kicking off at the moment and is speeding up in the, you know, in the wake of sort of the pressures that COVID-19 has created, that is going to actually, I think, drive a lot of the need for interim managers and a lot of the work that we'll be doing over the next few years.
Cool. Thank you,
so
David.
It's downsizing of a type, I suppose.
Yeah. Tracey, thank you, David. Tracey, do you have a view on the tough jobs and or downsizing?
I do. I made copious notes as David's been talking. I think one of the areas that is tough at the moment is on the international assignments, with all the COVID restrictions on travel and so forth. So I have struggled with certain assignments where people have said that, you know, they don't want to go overseas because they don't know if they're going to get stuck, or if they're going to be able to come back and can they continue working and so forth. So I would say one of the difficult areas is around international assignments. I'm not just talking Europe, I'm talking Middle East as well. And it's tougher to find people who want to, or who are prepared to travel for an assignment, and I quite understand that. In terms of David, maybe senior finance people, give us a shout. We have worked, we do work across the public sector, but not specifically as David does. It's where we've worked with senior people that have gone into the public sector. It is tough to get into public sector, so that is another area where if you haven't worked in public sector before, it's very difficult to move into. Management consultancy, that's another area which is or can be a bit frustrating, because they will have a specific brief from their client. They are the subject matter expert on, and therefore, if they want retail experience, they need to have retail experience. If they need to have logistics experience or 3PL experience, that's what they need to have. So, management consulting side. In terms of the types of roles, again, very focused on, I would say, not so much at senior level, because at senior level, when you're setting the strategy for organisation design, it is different if you're in a manufacturing business than if you're in the service industry, of course. But when you're setting the strategy, it's very different. When you're looking at the next level down at an operating level, when you're looking for somebody who's change manager, program delivery, whatever that may be, again, companies are being very specific. We want somebody with X because they need to understand warehousing, logistics, how it all runs together. We need somebody with a query or whatever it might be, Oracle or whatever. So again, it depends on the level of the role as to the more difficulty we may have of finding those right skills. The other area is in digital, AI and robotics. Everybody, it's that which we a rose by any other name would smell so sweet. What do people perceive as digital? And actually, if you're working at a senior level, we're talking about senior level change. It's much more an operational level rather than have you looked at that ERP system, or will we need to put APIs across to be able to our front end network website to be able to talk to our logistics department and look at omni-channel rather than multi-channel and all that sort of good stuff. So at the more senior level, again, not such an issue, but at that one level down at operational level, some people are saying, right, well, we need AI experience. Where are you going to get that from? Because AI is relatively new, and you might have somebody that's done 1 or 2 assignments, but again, it's looking at, do you actually need somebody to come up with a process? You're going to have AI experts because you're going to bring them in. You're going to have your Accenture or your whoever. So again, it's getting under the hood of the bonnet and actually finding out what people really do want. Sorry if that doesn't seem very specific an answer, but hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the frustrations in the marketplace.
Okay, thank you, Tracey. I'm going to put a question to both of you. Then I'm going to ask the participants something while you're thinking. So the question is, this is not our first economic contraction, is it? We've been here before. So I'd like to ask Tracey and David what lessons they have from last time, or perhaps even the time before. I'm not going to say how many economic contractions you've been through, that could be pertinent in this circumstance. And while you're thinking of that, can I say to the attendees, this is your last chance to stick a question in the chat, and I'm reminded if you can chuck it in the Q&A as well, that would be helpful for reasons that it gets captured. Thank you, attendees. So who would like to go first, Tracey and David, on the crystal ball question?
Can I go first? Is that all right, David?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Certainly during the last economic downturn, where Lehman Brothers went pear-shaped and the whole economy imploded, we actually had the opportunity to work with nearly 1,000 senior professionals who found themselves in the marketplace, not specifically interim managers, but actually professionals across the board. And we were able to deliver to them more than outplacement. It was, okay, you've got all the tools, now how do you interact with the market? My advice would be to individuals, and I know we're here as business professionals, obviously we're here not here for fun, but having said that, this is building long-term relationships. You need to be your own best friend. You need to work out what markets are moving. You need to find out who you know in those industries, and you need to be really specific with the questions that you ask. What are you able to offer? Not everything, because they will not know how to help you. Whoever you know within those organisations, the more specific you can be with the question that you have. I understand there is a new system coming in. I understand also that as the system comes in, we'll need to have a change management process. As this has only just been organised, is there somebody internally that is going to be in charge of that, and can I work alongside them? Who specifically would you suggest for me to speak to in that regard? And this is to the people that you know within the business. The more specific that you can be, the more chance you've got of actually finding a new role. The second thing that I will say is, how many jobs do you want? And how many companies are out there? And how many companies out there are going through change? So the more targeted and the focused you can be, the more chance you've got of actually securing that next role. Alongside that, people like ourselves, David and myself, we're using our resources to contact people that we know, contact companies, do exactly the same, but obviously from that perspective, we've probably got more people that we know in terms of connections within those particular industries, because of the work that we do it all day, every day. That's what we do. But don't be afraid to ask the questions, because when you know the answer to the question, it's a chance it could be yes. If you don't ask the question, the answer is always going to be no. Be your own best friend, do your own research, working alongside trusted interim providers, nudging them every now and again. It's me. What have you got? Reach out if you need some help or advice, if you want that on a more formal basis, or if you want it on an informal basis. But remember that we are spending a lot of our time looking for those opportunities. So just being mindful of that as well. So I guess that really encompasses everything that we've spoken about this afternoon, and hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you, Tracey. David, any crystal ball insights onto here we are again?
One of the things we saw through the last recession, actually this is not really just a reflection on interim management, but it was the job market generally at a senior level. We did see people transferring from the private sector out to the private sector into the public sector in certain areas where they've got a skill set that kind of fitted. So what we also saw is that lots of those people really enjoyed what they found. They found complexity, interest, scale, challenge in the roles that were available, and that was a real benefit for public sector organisations that got access to talent that they maybe previously wouldn't have had access to. We're seeing that happen again at the moment, particularly in areas like property development, regeneration. Certainly local authorities at the moment are probably the ones with the project, with the capital to invest in regeneration development, their assets. And I think if you were a senior property professional or senior development professional, had that type of regeneration background, you could find some really interesting, and you're in the private sector at the moment and it's a challenging time, you could find some really interesting, complex and challenging roles in the public sector. So that's, that type of, and it's not just limited to that, there's other areas as well. So if you've got a skill set that you think is going to fit very well, or if you've had people like myself telling you in the past that, you should think about these roles in local authorities or central government or the third sector, and maybe now is a time that would suit better to do that, then give it some more thought, and I think there could be some good opportunities.
Cool. Thank you very much, David. I think we've exhausted the attendees' questions. So, Tracey, any last words from you?
There are opportunities out there. It's finding them, research, and being really clear with what you can offer.
Cool. Thank you very much for participating today, Tracey.
Thank you for allowing me to.
Thank you. David, any final words from you?
No, only just big thank you for organising it, and it was very nice to meet you both, and hopefully it's been useful for anyone that attended.
Awesome. Thank you again, David, for participating. I've got a few final words from my colleagues at the Institute to remind you, which I'm going to just order on my screen because I can't see it anymore. Yes, here we go. So that covers us off for today. I'd like to thank again the participants and our guests. You will receive an email link to the recording in a few days. And a final thought on this. The Institute of Interim Management is run by interims, for interims. So always looking for volunteers and people to get involved. Heck, I got involved back in 2008 and it really helped me become a better interim. So if you want to get in touch, do give any contacts at the IIM a shout or member services at iim.org.uk. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you for your time today. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.